o'clock. So welcome everybody to this final meeting of the Utilities and Roading Committee for this session. So are there any apologies, please? Appear to be none. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Mover, Councillor Williams, seconder, Mayor Dan. Thank you. Any conflicts of interest? There appear to be none. Confirmation of minutes of the meeting of Utilities and Roading held on Tuesday the 19th of August. Do we have any questions on that? No. Do we have a mover? Councillor Redmond, seconder, Councillor Bryan. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. That's fine. No, any matters arising from these minutes? Appear to be none. Notes of a workshop of a Utilities and Roading Committee held on Tuesday the 19th of August. Any questions from those notes? Appear to be none. Do I have a mover? Councillor Redmond. Seconder? Mayor Dan. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Now we have deputations and presentations, speed bumps and residential advisories. Mary Ann, would you like to come forward, please? And if you would like to someone show, would you like to have a seat here?
Thanks.
You'd like to stand? Would you like to? You need to use this. Put the push down on the middle there and get the red button. There you go, so that we can hear you and record you.
Morning, everyone. I did email out to you end of August our description of what we're facing. Can you just quick show of hands if you've read through it? I don't want to waste time repeating something that you've already read, that's all. It was attached to the email and instructions were to distribute it to you all.
I've read the material you've presented to me, but I don't recall something else coming to me particularly. So.
Okay, that's unfortunate because I did email and request that it be shared with you prior to the meeting. So.
Can I ask who you sent it to?
I sent it to the lady who's organising all of this. Yeah, and requested it be shared.
Sorry, I think there was a misunderstanding between myself and the agenda prep. I thought it would be included as correspondence. I apologise to you.
Right, I'll have to do a quick summary then because I really want to keep the floor open for questions.
So just for clarity, yes, it was supposed to be in the agenda but never got incorporated as correspondence. So apologies for that.
Would you, well,
okay.
Just on that, could we get a copy of it sent to members if there is there? It can be circulated to us now and we can read that. If it's possible. Thank you.
I'll just give a quick synopsis then. There are 5 of us in our block. 2 of us as residents, we have speed bumps right across the entrance to our driveways. 12 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, 2 to 4 times an hour. We put up with bangs and thumps from the metro buses. They don't often stick to the speed guide, which is 25 kilometres along the speed bump. You can actually see the gouges from the chassis, front chassis of the buses and other vehicles hitting the road, going over the bump at a fair clip of a pace. So we've been putting up with this now for over 2 years and just 7 months, which has been very frustrating to say the least. We have repeatedly asked the council for support to get them removed. We've been redirected to the Environment Canterbury. We've been redirected to Metro buses. On 2 occasions, we've been redirected to the developer. And at each redirection, we've been told it's not our problem, it's their problem. But it is a district council problem. But it took some time for that to be recognised. But we're absolutely fed up with the noise. Our joinery vibrates when trucks, fast vehicles, heavy vehicles career over the speed bump and land on the other side. Our chimney flues rattle. We put up with constant noise and constant vibrations 24/7. There's absolutely no respite. So we've, in my report that we put together, which hopefully you'll get soon, numerous councils around the country that we've contacted recommend that because Silverstream Boulevard is a collector road and it's a bus route, it should not have speed bumps on it. Other councils have also questioned, and we've done the research, why were we not consulted? We know that the housing plans, the residential subdivision, at the very least, those speed bumps could have been aligned with boundary fences if they didn't know where the driveways were going, but that didn't happen. Other councils say that they will not put them in place due to the noise and vibrations that impacts upon residents, and that's what we're putting up with. And it's been a 2-year and 7-month battle to get to where we are now. So I'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you, Marianne. Questions? Mayor Dan.
Thank you, Marianne. Councillor Redmond and I met with you, and I think it was around December. Would you agree that since we've been involved, that there has been some progress and obviously
Yes,
leading to where things are now? Are you aware of the Community Board's recommendation today?
Yes, the Community Board see our side of the story and they would like them removed. That's their recommendation.
So the removal was ultimately what you would like to see. So you're supportive of their recommendation today?
Yeah, we want total removal. We know that the research and other councils that we've talked to, if we have anything that's remotely akin to the speed bumps, we are still going to get noise and vibrations.
You mentioned to me just on the way outside that there was an incident with some motorbikes.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks we've had some youths coming in from Kaiapoi direction on trail bikes with no number plates, using them as jumps. So it's just, the last couple of weekends have just been an absolute nightmare. So they'll scream over the bumps, see how much airtime they can get, screech to a halt in the intersection, come back and do it again, and so on. So that's only in the last 2 weeks, and yeah, we're just a little bit over it, shall we say.
Can understand that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions of Marianne? Well, Marianne, we thank you so much for or did you want to have a question? Sorry, Councillor Cairns.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Marianne, thanks for coming along today. Did you actually capture any video footage of?
No, we didn't have time because by the time my neighbour was away, so I was the only one, because our number 76 has the speed bump. By the time I got out for my phone, they'd gone, and it was just like cat and mouse. Every time they saw me come out with my phone, you know.
Thank you.
Go on.
Because there's that opportunity to
I know.
report to police and such like that.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Marianne, for taking the time coming to see us today. If you'd like to stay, and our next is a report on that, if you'd like to stay and listen to the next part of our, thank you. Right, we now go to 5.1. It's a further report on the Silverstream Boulevard Raised Safety Platform removal consultation. Joanne, thank you.
Thank you. So just to provide a wee bit of a background, in May 2025, staff took a report on the subject of the raised tables on Silverstream Boulevard to the Kaiapoi Tuahiwi Community Board. At that meeting, the board requested that a further workshop be held, which was undertaken in June 2025. In July 2025, a further report was taken to the Kaiapoi Tuahiwi Community Board, which sought a endorsed option, and the board recommended that the raised tables were removed and put a recommendation through to the Utilities and Roading Committee. The recommendation included that a consideration be given to consultation feedback, and staff through August consulted with the residents in the area, in the immediate adjacent area. Consultation was carried out. 12 letters were sent to residents and tenants along the section of road, and we received 5 responses. 80% of the residents were in favour of removal of the raised tables. So there are 2 items for consideration at the UNR meeting today. The first are the recommendations from the further information report, and the second is on the recommendations that have been printed out, and you have a hard copy of which were unfortunately omitted as an error out of this report. So that is a decision on the recommendation which was put forward from the community board to remove the raised tables. There's 2 sets of recommendations for consideration. With that, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Joanne. So the recommendation today is as set out in diligent A, B and C, and then E, F and G from the Kaiapoi Tuahiwi Community Board.
We're going to take those as in 2 sections.
Just, yes, that is correct. So it's probably easiest for the committee to consider the proposed recommendations from staff in the diligent pack first, and if someone wanted to move those, you could consider those, and then immediately following that, I'd suggest that you consider the recommendation from the Kaiapoi Community Board, which is where it goes, and that the KTCB recommends D, E, F and G.
Mayor Dan?
Thank you.
However, if one wished, they could move the whole lot together to keep it simple. And if others wanted them taken apart, they could be if the chair was in agreement.
So would you like to move?
Well, I would, but I'll just want to ask a question first.
All right.
Thank you, but that's what I'll foreshadow that I will move the whole lot, including the KTCB recommendations.
All right, so we'll continue with questions.
Yes, so
prior to that.
can I just, option 7, if I'm correct, page 60 of diligent indicates that, when I found that just before, they were the original options that were presented by staff to the KTCB. I think that's what the board is suggesting. Just want to be clear about that. The other is the cost for that option indicates that it's 16,000. Is that? Can I just be sure that I'm on the right recommendation for options and that is the indicative cost?
Yes, I believe that's correct. It was option 7. There was a change in option numbering from between the first and second report. Yes. Because we put an additional option into the workshop, so my apologies, it got a little bit confusing. But yes, it was for removal of the raised tables, and a rough order estimate has been discussed with CORD.
So, yeah, so option 7, that's the same as what the KTCB have recommended, is that correct? Thank you.
Councillor Williams, did you have a question? All right, any other further questions? So, Mayor Dan, would you like to
I'd like to move
recommend?
I'd like to move the A, B and C, and then D, E, F and G as have been circulated to us from the KTBC's recommendations.
This seconded by, well, Councillor Williams was first, so that's fine. So would you like to speak, Mayor Dan?
Yes, firstly, since Mary Ann has approached myself and Councillor Redmond, we've met on, as the roading portfolio holder, met on site with Mary Ann. We've also had representations from another resident. Since that time, it's been reasonably recently. My understanding is that the concerns that Mary Ann has indicated are fairly well supported by the area, and I think the consultation that's been done has indicated that. I can, having stood at Mary Ann's drive and having been over that many times over that period myself, I can certainly appreciate and understand your concerns. And where we have the ability to remedy that, where it's not causing any undue harm, then I feel the level of cost involved is a fairly minor amount in the scheme of, I guess, living in an environment that's peaceful and not creating the hazard or the impact that it is now, not only with noise, but also the thud and bumps that go over there regularly. And I appreciate the reasons why they were put in the first place, which was to try and slow the environment through there. It is a reasonable thoroughfare through there, and in fact, Councillor Redmond and I met with some residents further down the road who would be delighted to see the speed bumps go in. So we can never really entirely please everyone in this space, and it does come back to the environment and where you're in. In fact, I was meeting with some Ryman residents the other day who'd also like them going in, but I assure them once they go in, they won't want them necessarily there because they'll go through what most do, is when they go in, it's the thud and bumps that go over all the time with contractors, trailers, larger vehicles, buses, you name it, becomes a matter where we hear back. So look, I appreciate the concerns Mary Ann's raised. I'm persuaded on the balance after consultation, after listening to what Mary Ann's experienced. Also, she's been very thoughtful and thorough in her research, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. It is appreciated. And as a result of that, and also endorsed by the Kaiapoi Tuahiwi Community Board, I'm supportive of the direction that's been proposed.
Paul, would you like to comment?
Yes, I have quite a lot of sympathy on this because I've myself got a speed bump and going into the maternity hospital right beside my place in here on River Road. And I can't still figure out why they would put a speed hump going into a maternity hospital when sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning there's a private car going with a pregnant lady there going to have a baby, and all of a sudden they hit the speed hump. And yes, it does wake me up, so I do have a lot of sympathy for that type of thing. I've also had work done on Ashley Street, just roading surface wasn't good enough and it was keeping people awake and at night time, so thoroughly support this. I am concerned of the time it's taken to have this happen though. It should have happened in my book a long time ago. But thank you.
Nikki and then Philip.
Thank you, and thank you for coming and presenting. I've always wondered what the purpose of the speed bumps actually was, because it's a 50k road. It's not, that's kind of a de facto lowering of the speed limit in that place. I can understand the recommendation. It makes very good sense to me, and I'm relieved to see the extra recommendations here on this paper, because I had wondered when I read this report, what was the point of just receiving the feedback if we went to the trouble of actually getting it and then do nothing about it. So pleased to know that that was an omission. I'm very happy to support the recommendations. That is the only sensible thing to do, and hopefully we'll get that done and sorted soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Philip?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be supporting the recommendation with the addition of the Kaiapoi Tuahiwi Community Board conditions. I too, like Councillor Mearlings, wondered what action was going to come from this recommendation. There was something missing, so I'm pleased that put in. It has taken a wee while. It's taken about 10 months since the Mayor and I met with Mary Ann. But I can say that the staff have been very thorough. They've done vibration testing and all sorts of work. The speed hump should have been benign, and I drove over it the other day, and even my car didn't like it, Mary Ann, and I was going slow as well. So they just seem inappropriate, and it is causing distress to a number of residents. I understand they were put in there originally because there is a park or playground proposed on the other side of the road. This really, I see, is the first step. The second step we will be hearing about, I'm sure, at some stage is speed. So it may be that staff, in the fullness of time, will need to consider additional signage or some speed mitigation measures other than speed humps. So it's not an appropriate place for the speed hump. Interestingly, round further on Sovereign Boulevard by the shops, those speed humps don't seem to cause a problem. They have a different profile. So there's a whole series of factors, I think, that have contributed to this. And I agree with the community board. The solution is to take them out. And I'm very happy to support that. I know Mary Ann will have a question, when will it happen? And I can't answer that one. Thank you.
Maybe if staff were able to give an indication of when that might be, if it's been approved.
Sorry, I would need to go away and speak to the contractor and see when they can fit it into their program. I don't have a date ready.
When that's been done, do you think you could let us know, and Mary Ann know, Joanne? That would be appreciated. Just, we've got a understanding of expectations of when that might happen. Thank you.
Well, there we go. So let's hopefully that's a good solution for you, Mary Ann. So all those in favour, please. Oh, I thought that was, sorry.
No, it wasn't. No.
Of course you can have one.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor.
Unless anyone else wishes to speak. Can I just say, firstly, Councillor Williams' points about his property next door, he perhaps needs to talk to Health New Zealand because it's their speed hump there as it comes in. Is it?
No, it's when council put in the footpath, put them outside.
Oh, well, we must have a look.
Council.
Must have a look at that then. Around road surfacing on Ashley Street, there are matters in Silverstream where I've met with our staff along those particular locations, and they have been very responsive and reactive to those. The road surfacing was redone to definitely meet expectations of certainly larger vehicles that use Ashley Street. And around Silverstream, there was a lot of feedback around the surfacing that was there. And I would just want to acknowledge the staff and how well they've worked in that space. They do, look, sometimes there will be a professional difference of opinion over what's appropriate and what's not, but they do listen very much to our community and make sure where possible those things can be programmed and achieved. We were getting a lot of feedback at one point around the Northern Corridor, and the Northern Corridor, they ended up, that was on the program to be resealed. Recently we met with the residents where the motorway is, and the new Wooding to Pegasus, sorry, not Wooding to Pegasus, the Belfast project, the Wooding Bypass project, and they've certainly raised their concerns around the surfacing that exists there, and NZTA are considering that when they come to do a road surface renewal through there. So we do get elements of feedback often, and our staff do go and meet, and they do come up with, I think, solutions. And in this instance, the solution's been recommended by the board that we totally endorse. You know, the whole topic of speed humps, and that is a matter that, as we've indicated, there are two sides of opinions. But in this instance, I agree with their removal. I don't think that they're appropriate for the environment, understanding everything else that's going on there. The topic of raised tables in general, if you use them in the city, I can't understand personally some of the usage of them. I know that they're designed to slow potentially, but they actually start to become a hazard in different places. And I use one quite often when I'm travelling into town, certainly along Linwood Avenue, and I've read the comments and feedback that's come through from those. So I know that at the time when the Southbrook improvements were being proposed, they were going to put a raised table through there, which we did strongly resist. We have put one in Silverstream, and it was designed to slow that area. And I will admit, I think it does achieve that in that particular location. But there's a difference of opinion at times about the method of treatment. And in this instance, I agree with the community feedback that's come through that this should be removed. And I encourage colleagues to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I will put to the vote that we receive the reports from A, B, C, D, E, F and G. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Joanne, and thank you, Marianne, for your work. Hope that helps you. 5.2, reclassification of stockwater races. Jason, welcome, and Kelly, good morning.
Good morning. This report is asking the Utilities and Roading Committee to authorize several recommended water race reclassifications. The report provides details on several stock water races identified for reclassification as part of an ongoing project to improve the accuracy of the Waimakariri District Council's stock water race data. Reclassification does not alter the operation of the water race network, but ensures that the maintenance responsibilities are aligned with how each race is used and managed. It also includes a unique reclassification case for a race on North Ear Road, which carries both stock water and irrigation water. In this instance, the volume of irrigation water within the race is the minority compared to the other combined races throughout the district. And following discussions with the affected landowners and Waimakariri Irrigation Limited, it has been determined that this section should be reclassified as council maintained. This is consistent with the principle that the entity with the larger volume within the combined race should be responsible for the maintenance. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Questions from anyone? Doesn't appear to.
Look at me.
I think we might have a mover and a seconder. A mover?
Question?
A question? Yes, carry on.
Thank you for the report, Jason. Where did the impetus for these changes come from? Did they come from the farmers or from staff here, or why is this here effectively?
So most of them are we've been meeting with Waimak Irrigation Limited, our land drainage engineer in our operations team has been meeting with Will, and just going over the data that we have and correcting it where we've been Waimak WDC's been maintaining a water race, but it's labeled as a farmer race, or vice versa, where it's a farmer race, but we've been maintaining it. So just updating it to match what the actual maintenance practices are in the field.
So it's really just an administrative correction?
Correct.
Councillor Nikki, and then Tim.
Thank you. And just on that, so I understand that you're doing this to reflect what's actually happening already, but where we're changing from WDC maintained to farmer maintained, and some of these, have the farmers been informed that this is now their water race to maintain?
For all cases in the report, the property owners are already maintaining that water race.
Okay, but do they know that it's now? Yes, thank you for having maintained this water race. Can you please continue to do so? We've changed it.
My understanding is that they have been informed that the change is happening, but I can confirm that with the land drainage engineer.
Okay, no, that would be good, because often we have conversations about people who maintain drains who go, but this is the council's drain, or this is the council's stock water race, but I've been doing it for years, so we just need to make sure that the record's set straight, I guess. But yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Tim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the observations here, and particularly with our stock water drainage and the interaction with Will, is that do we actually actively audit Will's management of the functionality of the channel? And I ask that. I know examples of these historic structures on the Will races that perhaps council is maybe not aware of, and modifications that are made on the raceways, the intersection with Will. Do we treat them like we do with our other contractors, and we actively audit them, or do we kind of just have a hands-off relationship? How would you?
I could give some insight to address that question. And just a little bit of background before answering that. There are two main type of races. So there are the farm races, which are maintained by the adjacent property owner. So they only supply stock water. Where those races go through road reserves, we contract Waimaka Irrigation Limited for the maintenance of those. So we will get in service requests and sometimes actually go directly to Will, sometimes we'll get them. And we've got performance indicators to make sure that the flow of water in those races is not lost for more than 24 hours. And we'll have to respond and address those. So we actually encourage people, residents, to actually log a service request when they're out of water. It could indicate a blockage, it could indicate something to do with the management of flows in the system that we want to respond to. The other type of races are where they are combined irrigation and stock water races. So if a property owner does have a irrigation and a combined irrigation race flowing through their property, they're still entitled to access it for stock drinking purposes. And we still want to make sure that that those races are maintained in a good condition as well. The maintenance responsibility there sits with Waimaka Irrigation Limited. So they will actually look after the channel and the structures associated with those. So that
question.
Yeah, that's a little bit of background, but effectively what we are doing is looking at the contractor's response, Waimaka Irrigation's response from a stock water provision perspective in terms of making sure that the loss of water doesn't extend for more than 24 hours and where blockages are identified, they're addressed as soon as possible.
The question I suppose that's entailed in your answer there is that when there's a combined raceway and people have a problem, I often hear people saying, oh, I've been trying to get Will to improve this or that or whatever. Their interaction with Will, but what happens, we are effectively, it's our raceway too, so at what point do we then step in and how do we log those service requests? Because people, I can't remember all the time, say, Will won't do anything, or Will this, or Will that, but in fact it's ours as well.
Yeah, they should still be logging a service request. It may actually be more related to the irrigation element of the system, but we will still operate as a conduit to get that issue addressed, correct.
Right, any further questions? Councillor Hall, you're going to move? Seconded?
Yeah.
Mayor Dan? Paul?
I think actually quite common sense. It's gone through the advisory group and quite a bit of discussion about it. So, and they are important races in a lot of situations around the country, not just for stock water, but recharge of groundwaters and a bit of drainage and everything. So I think it's a good thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Dan?
I agree with Councillor Williams. Thank you.
There we go. I think, thank you very much, Jason and Kelly. It just seems to me that this is really just tidying things up. Is that right? Getting things back on track. All right, all those in favour of this report, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much for your work. The next one is 5.3, mowing exemption request. Recommendation. Joanne.
Thank you. So this report is seeking a decision in relation to a request for a mowing exemption for a berm at 18 Blackadder Road in Pegasus. The Road Reserve Management Policy notes that council does not maintain urban berms unless they meet a number of certain criteria, such as they are very large berms, so it's not feasible to ask residents to maintain those. And the expectation, expectation, that's what I was looking for, is that the berms are maintained by the adjacent property owner. The resident in this case can apply for an exemption, which is then considered by the Utilities and Roading Committee. Staff have recommended in this situation that the request be declined, and the reason for that is that there is not a strong demonstration that the request meets the criteria outlined within the Road Reserve Management Policy. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, I have a question for you. This resident, I know that a lot of people can apply and get help with mowing their lawns once a week or once a fortnight. Would this person qualify for that?
I'm not sure what scheme that is under, but I agree there are some schemes out there. We had reached out to them in the first instance and suggested asked whether they would have a family member who might be able to assist them, or whether they could use a commercial mowing company, which a lot of residents around the district do. But the resident had indicated they wanted to continue with the request for the exemption.
Thank you. Any other questions? Phil?
Thank you, Joanne. How long has the resident lived at this property?
I'm sorry, I don't have that information offhand.
Did the application provide any medical evidence why the person's unable to mow?
No,
There was reference to a disability, just...
Yeah, so the only information that has been provided by the resident is the email, which is attached in the appendices to the report, and hence staff's statement that there's not a clear demonstration that they would meet the criteria.
Right, thank you.
Question, Paul?
I'm just wondering whether it would be appropriate if we pass what's on the situation here for us to approach lots of citizens' advice and or Tessa's group to find out what Councillor Ward was mentioning about a subsidy, and if this gets passed, we can actually inform those person that there possibly could be. Would that be appropriate for us to do?
I can certainly pass the information along to the community team and see whether they know of any different groups out there that might be able to help.
Thank you. Any further questions? Do we have a mover? Mayor Dan, seconder.
I'm going to add that A, B, and then a new C requests staff to ask the community team to work with the resident to see if there are community other options to support this individual.
Thank you.
And the rest is B, D, and E.
So do you approve of that? And Philip?
I will second it.
Second it. And you would like to speak? Paul, you're happy with that recommendation, the alteration?
Have I waited for time to speak now?
All right.
May I speak?
Yes.
Just briefly, have sympathy for the situation that's there, but in that instances with council, if we undertake this, we would, in the circumstances, there are a range of people that would also want to see this create quite a precedent in the circumstances. And there are commercial opportunities. There's also an individual like Tony Monk, who we gave a community service award to the other evening, who does go around and do things like this because he's just a very kind-minded individual. Service clubs may well be possibly interested. There are other community organisations that were set up through, as I recall, through the likes of have contacts through Presbyterian Support and the like that would know where they're done at a very low rate to help people out in the circumstances. And of course then there's the various mowing franchises that are around that can and could support. So I think with asking our community team to reach out, it's showing just ability of care, and I think that was a good suggestion, Councillor Williams. So And of course, I don't know what the financial circumstances are of the individual. That's not clear. Work and income also do support requests not dissimilar to this, and that would be something that would need to be worked through on a needs basis. So that's something that may well also be applicable, where there may be some financial support through Tina and the team here at our local office. So there are a range of options there, but from a council perspective, I think the recommendation is right. It's just about how we can support the rest.
Thank you. Paul? Philip?
You may need glasses, Madam Chair. Happy to second this motion. From reading the report, I wasn't clear that there was sufficient evidence in the brief email to meet the criteria. I do note from the illustration that it is a corner section, so there is a wee bit more mowing perhaps than would otherwise be the case. So I am happy with the addition to see if the community team can offer any other assistance. I just note that the cost, which did seem quite high of mowing, would probably equate with the annual rates we would be receiving from the property. So I'm not sure how the estimate was calculated, but it is a significant amount. So I regret that I support the recommendation, and that it would be good to help someone, but I don't feel like that in the case sufficient merit to warrant an exemption. So I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Robbie, you'd like to speak?
I intend to support the recommendation. However, they have considerable sympathy from me. I was contacted by a senior management of council staff yesterday with regard to the road reserve outside my property at Waimakariri Beach. This road reserve I've maintained for the last 50 years. Never complained, got on, spent a fortune of my petrol, my time, mowing it. And because we're in transition from one place to the next, I've put a plastic house on the road reserve, which two neighbours have grizzled about. I'm told that it is likely I'll be required to remove it from the road reserve, to which I replied, well, you can get Delta to start mowing the road reserve and not me. So, and it's a big piece of road reserve. It's quite sizable. I understand that senior manager of staff is going to come out at some stage. I hope he'll make an appointment with me so I can explain my dilemma and the dilemmas of others in the street who also utilise this road reserve that is very underutilised. So this person does have some sympathy from me, and you can tell probably by the tone of my dialogue that I am far, far, far from happy with this current situation. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Paul?
I support the recommendation, and particularly with that note added into it, because I think that's a very important thing there. I do, however, have a lot of sympathy because there's lots of places there that's getting mowing reserve type things outside of houses which aren't necessary and creating a bit of a problem for some of the people mowing it. My house, one particular one, I've got one there, it's about 400 wide, which is a real problem to get a mower down there. It probably didn't need it. There's lots of places like that situation, and some of the ones that don't actually mow it looks a damn mess for the rest of the street. So, but I do like approaching to the community team to see what we can help with an exterior help on that. So thank you.
Any further speakers? Right, we'll vote on this recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you, Joanne. 5.4, avian botulism management 2024-25 and a bird deterrent proposal. Thank you, Sophie and Kelly.
Morena koutou. So this is a report with a twofold purpose. It's an annual report of avian botulism management and also looking at a proposal for a bird deterrent, a laser at the Kaiapoi wastewater treatment plant. It is a report for a decision as there's a recommendation not to proceed with the installation of a laser. This past year, 24-25, there were 158 birds for all wastewater treatment plants that were collected by ecological contractors, which is it's not considered an outbreak. Those birds are not autopsied to confirm their cause of death. And there is a graph in the report which indicates it's very low compared to other years. We have also updated the avian botulism management plan, particularly to include information around avian influenza, which is has similar symptoms to avian botulism, but not currently present in New Zealand, just to be clear about that. There is information about what has happened at Bromley wastewater treatment plant this past winter, and lastly, I've forgotten the last point. Yes, so the report with the bird deterrent, the laser option. So the table 1 in the report summarises advantages and disadvantages of that proposal, which is the key summary document to look at. I'm happy to take any questions around this recommendation to not install it. Tim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recall from sitting on Zone Committee, there's discussions and public sort of submissions that came in on this, that there was, at the peak of the apparent problems, that there were seasonal conditions that seemed to be sort of affecting the way that the water was flowing, both here and nearby Waimakariri. So have the seasonal conditions changed? Are we now seeing a change in environmental conditions, which is reducing the need? Yeah.
We'll get like El Nino versus La Nina.
El Nino river.
Dry years
Yeah, we
versus
talked
wet
about
years.
river conditions, we talked about salinity in the Kaiapoi, we talked about we had 2 dry summers, all sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do believe the avian botulism is related to dry, hot conditions, but I haven't done a correlation. I haven't put the two numbers together, so I've been intending to do that. Yeah.
And has there been any follow-up, I suppose, in relation to this? We were asked about whether the council's management practices had changed, which was affecting, to some extent, the risk, of avian botulism, environmental conditions. Has there been any follow-up on that in your report back to the community?
There hasn't been any change to our management practices that has led to an increased risk. No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other further questions? Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In figure 1, Sophie, there is a clear trend down. And following on from Councillor Fulton, are there any reasons why we're getting, and that's a 10-year period, why we're going from a relatively high threshold down to a very small number?
So I'd like to think it's because we are actively breaking the cycle where by collecting the bird carcasses that prevents the toxin being released to other birds that would then feed on the maggots so that's called the maggot carcass cycle. So I'd like to think that's the key reason, but I cannot confirm that. But it's because of the breaking that cycle. Yeah.
So because of that downward trend, that's really why you're suggesting we don't need the laser deterrent at the moment?
The key reason I'm not recommending the laser is because it hasn't been proven to be effective both for avian botulism management to try and reduce numbers there, and there are quite a few consequences that might be unintended, such as midge control might be worse, but also for pukeko control was something else that we looked at. So when pukekos, when the wetlands are replanted, potentially next financial year, there's a high likelihood that pukekos will pull those plants out unless we can provide netting or some other way of deterring them, because they love to pull out newly planted plants and eat the roots. So that was another reason. So look, effective for both of those reasons, I questioned, would the laser actually be enough of a deterrent, or would we be putting too many eggs in one basket and then scramble to have to put in netting or stop avian botulism management in other ways, thinking about cost cutting in other ways, but actually find out that the laser doesn't provide that same level of supervision that we currently have a lot of eyes on the ground with weekly or sometimes twice weekly monitoring by the contractors to see what's happening.
Paul?
I've got a wee bit of concern with, on 4.18, they hire for a 12-week year, $11,350 for the hire of one. In the Marlborough and the vineyards, they're only paying $2,995 to buy one of the units that do a 2 to 3 hectare block. So why for the hireage of something there, when you can buy them for $2,995 to do a 2 to 3 hectare block, and the cost compared with there, and some of your report says about people's eyes and all that. If you're in the Marlborough with the vineyards where they're protecting from birds and all that, they've got roads going past and they've had no problems with sights and all that drama with eyesights and all that. So this is a surge farm where there's nobody going to be walking around and everything around. It's completely covered with trees and all that. So I'm a wee bit concerned of where those figures and information come from.
So I was also surprised at the hireage cost for this particular model, because I have seen in other models the hireage was lower. It was more in the order of $1,000, but those models, as referred to, were smaller, so you'd need multiple units, or they were class 4 lasers, which is the more dangerous model where you have hazard of starting a fire or increased risk from reflections. So in response to your question around the danger from being exposed to laser, the class 3B that I've proposed, they do say that contractors should be wearing special laser glasses. So maybe if you see people in the vineyards, they should be wearing laser safety glasses. This is just following the guidelines of what is quite established. I mean, there is as you can see in the quote, they do provide a laser safety course because that's considered necessary for people working around these lasers. So I'm not sure in the vineyards you can make sure that the beam doesn't go beyond the vineyard. Obviously you wouldn't want it to go out into the road, so because of that precision of control, maybe they haven't had any or no reflection from water, they haven't had such issues. But I'm just following the guidance that is quite established about what laser safety.
So has anybody from I know you know that the vineyards and Marlborough's got them, so has anybody contact with any of those vineyards, because they've had them there for years, going to this year, they've had no problems, no interaction, no fires, no nothing. So has there been any contact with those big companies in Marlborough that's running these devices?
So I saw online vineyard owners who were recommending this AVIX automatic Mark II laser, so that's why I didn't contact I saw the videos from the vineyard owners saying how wonderful it was, and then that was from the Bird Control New Zealand. So that's where I followed up on that as the key laser that seemed to be preferred by the vineyard owners in Marlborough. But I haven't contacted them directly, I just saw their recommendations in their testimonial videos.
Tim, you'd like to say something else?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I've been here before in confusing avian botulism issues with midges, but in this case, with midges, is there a risk of unintended consequences that if we have laser light, is that what we're saying, that it could create conditions or just light generally for other?
If we have a reduction
like
in the
midges?
bird population, it's very likely that the midges will increase, because the key food source of what the birds are eating is predominantly the midge larvae. So I would hazard a guess that maybe half of the midges are eaten by birds when they emerge. I mean, that's just a complete guess, but that's the kind of proportion of that's why the birds are there. And we would need to factor that in as what effect is that going to have for the neighbours if we suddenly have that midge control removed. If the laser was successful, we still have that factor to factor in. Yeah.
And just an observation, I have seen these things in action in adjacent farms, and they are a terrific light source. They really are. They're quite into the night sky if misdirected. So I don't know with the properties of them and safety thereof, but yes, they are substantial as for bird scaring devices. So I don't know the effectiveness, but certainly strong beams.
here's a question from me, which is a little bit different, but I've noticed that there's a growing Canadian geese population in the area, and they're pooping everywhere and they're fouling up everywhere, particularly around Pegasus and other places. Are they of concern to us, or how can we deal with this growing population? And I know from being on a farm and raising geese that they gobble up 5 or 6 times more than anything else of the plantation daily.
Yes, so the Canada geese are an introduced species that are expanding their range, and their numbers are increasing, and there have been areas such as in Christchurch City Council, they have carried out culls. The green space has been involved in discussions around culls. I don't have the details, but not at the wastewater treatment plants. But yeah, that is something that has been discussed, at least I know.
So,
we need to be referred to the green space team to answer.
Right. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for that. Any further questions of Sophie? Do we have a mover? A recommendation? Councillor Redmond, seconder? Councillor Mealings. Councillor Redmond, you'd like to say something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the report is self-explanatory, really, but at the present time, we don't seem to have a significant avian botulism problem. And in item D, the cost of the installation, the health and safety requirements and the uncertainty of the effectiveness may outweigh the potential benefits of using it. But I think Sophie hit on the main concern, the midges, and I know residents do complain about midges in the vicinity of the wastewater treatment plant in Kaiapoi in particular. And if keeping birds away is going to increase the midges, then that's really not an intended consequence we would like to see. So I think at this stage the status quo is acceptable, but no doubt staff will be monitoring that to see if it changes. And it is quite revealing in table 1 to see the trend on the graph down, and I think we're now at a manageable level, so I hope, fingers crossed, that that will continue.
Thank you. Nikki?
Sir.
All right. Paul, you'd like to say something?
Yeah, I will support the recommendation, but I am a wee bit concerned about the costings, particularly when there was a laser device offered for council to use for free to do a test on it at the waste plant. It's very encouraging to see the botulism coming down with trends. So, but I think it still needs to be left on the radar in case we start getting a trend up, because avian botulism, some years we have nothing there and all of a sudden you get a big spike and what have you, but I think the report may be a wee bit flawed with some of the costings in there compared with the research I've done, and my research has all been done from Marlborough and the vineyards, and there was a laser unit offered to the council for nothing for a free trial if we wanted to try it, so, but thank you.
Right, Nikki.
Thank you. I'm about to lose my voice. You've laid out a pretty good case here. It's going to cost about $31,000 to install something that we don't even know if it's going to be effective. We're using it in a different circumstance to farms and vineyards and whatnot, because we're using it on water. And there is also a chance of unintended consequences, which could exacerbate other problems. It's a bit of a wicked problem, I guess. Cut one head off and 3 more grow back in its place. So I note that, you know, you've laid out, as Councillor Redmond has pointed out, that, you know, we don't know if it's actually going to work. There's health and safety requirements, the cost and all of that. But also you have said in here that you're going to monitor the development of laser technology as a bird deterrent. So we can wait and watch and see if others have any success in using this technology in this kind of setting and see how that goes before we dip our toe in the water, as it were. So I'm quite happy with the recommendations here. It makes sense to me, so thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Dan?
I am also happy with what's recommended, and I take the advice of our professional staff who are expert in this space, and I appreciate the work that they do. We've had a number of meetings with various groups over many years where there's been challenge to this thinking, and that's good. That's part of a democracy, and we also want to make sure that we do have the right environment. Along with Councillor Williams, I've visited the site. I've been down here with particularly sewage site at Kaiapoi, where, along with Mr. Bate, who visited, who expressed a range of concerns. They have all been investigated, looked into. There's been some suggestions that have come from there. We've also talked in the wider sense that we are looking for what other technologies might come about in the future that may well be useful in the management of this particular matter, but there's not the evidence there that backs the current thinking. And I know Michael has some concerns there, and that's valid from his perspective, and he's only there to try and achieve a better outcome, and I admire that about Michael. But with respect, we have to balance that off with the professional advice that come from our water environment advisors and our staff, and I do think that we have some of the best in the country. We're extremely lucky with Sophie and the team there and the work that they do, and they're very committed in the space to doing the right thing. So I just wanted to acknowledge the work that they do and thank them, because I know how much work A, they put in, but B, in the response to queries that come from our community, and to reassure them that we are committed to doing the right thing in that space.
Thank you. Right of reply, Philip. Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just reiterate those points about the expertise of the staff. I know we talk a lot about this, but I also think it's we responded to Michael's and others in the community who came to us and have come to us for a number of years expressing their concerns from different sides, perhaps of the same coin: midges, avian botulism. In this case, it concerns me about the unintended consequences of dealing with the avian botulism in a certain way, which has an impact on the midges. And I just think you've thoroughly assessed this. You're there for a specific reason, to bring your expertise to the job and for us to listen and take response to that. I don't think we need sort of any handiwork experiments in this case. I think there's too much risk. It's a bit like introducing the rabbit and then introducing the hare, and then the ferret and the stoat and the weasel, and one chases the other. And we see what happens in the history of New Zealand ecology when we try to have one animal chases the other. I think you know the analogy, but I think we should just act with caution here. It's not to say there won't be any future technology improvements, but just too much risk entailed for me to take this one on.
Thank you. Right of reply, Philip.
I wasn't going to reply, but Councillor Fulton mentioned his eradication procedures. You overlooked the cane toad in Queensland, which was a good example of things that went wrong. So I think it's a very good report, and status quo in the meantime, but keep a watching brief on developments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll put that to the vote, the recommendation from Sophie. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Sophie, for all your wonderful work, and Kelly as well. Keep up the great work. Now we have accountability reporting for Waimakariri Biodiversity Trust funding. Sophie, once again.
Kia ora noa. So this is a report for information regards the Waimakariri Biodiversity Trust, which they came to give a deputation to the July UNR meeting, which you might recall, when they presented their annual report, which I have looked at for deliverables that were the deliverables that were to be delivered for 2024-25 were considered satisfactory from my assessment, and I'm recommending that we. Well, I'm sorry, it's not a recommendation; it's a report for information. It's the funds will be distributed to the Waimakariri Biodiversity Trust for 25-26, based on my assessment of the satisfactory delivery of the deliverables. Happy to take questions.
Any questions of Sophie? Paul?
Yes, I'm a wee bit concerned about left and right hands doing there. We had a meeting with ECAN here a while ago, and some of the plantings are putting in places where it limits the amount of diggers getting in to clean some of the ditches and everything around there. And ECAN actually stated there they were concerned to get a digger in, they had to run across a whole lot of these new established plants. So is there coordination between drainage, ECAN, every time these plants have been put on these sides of streams and rivers and all that? Because this doesn't seem to be happening. And I'm just wondering, how can we make that happen so we don't have this problem of some of the biodiversity plants being in the way of progress to keep these streams clean and everything?
Yep. So often the waterways are in ECAN or WDC management, so it's a requirement for, say, the Biodiversity Trust or other landowners to consult with the land drainage engineer or others in the drainage team, because it's purely because of ownership of the land. I mean, if you have a waterway that within private ownership, that might be a different case where the landowner may decide that they want to plant up both sides, and then obviously so we do have advice around managing waterways and how to plant up maybe one side for shading and then to leave access on another side, or similar for the stockwater races, planting is required, planting permission is required. So there are these steps in place which are meant to prevent these such issues. And there is discussion. We do have monthly meetings with the Waimakariri Biodiversity Trust. They do have quite a lot of projects that are not associated with waterways. They are looking at all kinds of biodiversity. So I'm thinking of a couple of examples. So Hunter's Stream, there's a project which is private ownership, but the landowner has. So often people will plant a low flood channel with the low carex grasses. That's often what the planting recommendations, the planting plans recommend, because of then the flood capacity, the hydraulic capacity of the waterway is not affected. So that is standard practice, but you're right, in private areas, private lot property, there is still the chance that a landowner may choose to plant large trees next to their waterway.
Yeah, no, I was actually talking about when Fred Brooks came.
Aren't we talking about the
Sorry,
budget?
Madam Chair, are we talking to this report? I'm
Yes,
confused.
that's what I'm just saying.
It was your direction, but.
Yes. Thank you. Any questions, please, on the budget? That's what this report is about.
Are we using this budget correctly and communicating with ECAN staff for this planting and using this budget wisely in the communications?
So this budget is for operational costs for the trust. So it is for the contractors who carry out their roles, their hours per week. It's not actually for the specific projects themselves. So yes, there is funding that they have achieved from other sources for the specific projects, but it's not related to the planting, any planting plans or planting projects.
And just to add to that, if you look under 4.2 on page 104 of your agenda, you can actually see some of the actions that have been undertaken by the trust, and part of that is providing advice to private landowners. So providing this funding and having this connection with the Biodiversity Trust actually provides us for an avenue for us to provide education, not just about the biodiversity, but the practical sides in terms of when planting is undertaken, making sure there's enough room for maintenance of waterways into the future. So I think having this connection and providing this funding does actually achieve education to improve the outcomes that you're just mentioning.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Just in the annual report, it's showing contestable fund from the council, but it looks like there's funding being achieved from the likes of RATA and other organisations. I'm wondering if you could just elaborate the funding partnership that exists between not only our council but other partners.
For the Waimakariri Biodiversity Trust, I'm just trying to remember the precise detail. I know that they've just applied to Rata again, but I think they've received some funding. So often the relationship is that if we provide seed funding, that can be used as leverage for other funding to be applied for, so that it is an enabler that so that you can call this organisational support that then allows them to apply. They have the time to apply for the specific project funding, but also they can match the 50% requirement for the other funds. So they have received ECAN or Waimakariri Water Zone Committee funding and Rata funding. I can't remember. They distribute the main power biodiversity fund, but they don't actually receive that. They just hold the funds and distribute those. And also, sorry, they have received funding from the Natural Environment Strategy from WDC, so that's another source of funding that they have received.
Tim, you have a question?
Is it more efficient for this organisation to deliver the works than for our own staff and our organisation with its overheads to deliver the works? What's the comparability? Because it's not the only organisation that effectively delivers council services in partnership. Where is the efficiency?
Yeah, a good question, and I don't have any data at hand. I think there would be some data that would show that it is more efficient, but I don't have that. Sorry, yeah. So I'm happy to look that up. I'm interested to know as well. So maybe not as an action for me to get back to the committee with that. And something else that's also a benefit of having a funding given to a trust is that separation from council, because landowners often feel comfortable going to a separate entity, a charitable trust, where they're able to have that.
Rata and the like being an example, sometimes they won't explicitly fund councils, but they will look to fund communities. Another
reason to have a separate trust, yes. So there are other non-financial reasons to support a charitable trust that can then, yeah.
So yeah, one of the primary benefits is they can seek external funding that the council would not be able to, so they're effectively leveraging off the input that the council has. The other advantages, they actually end up coordinating a lot of volunteer hours of people to do it. It saves us administration, the costs of staff. So we don't have any hard and fast figures that we could put in front of you, but certainly I would be very surprised if you were to find it was more efficient to deliver this through staff. They just given the advantages of the structure they've got and the enthusiasm and the unpaid hours that the people involved in these kind of initiatives do.
And their funding is, just to further that, Madam Chair, is always contestable. I mean, that's a key, no matter how strong the relationship, how long they've been working with us as council, their funding is always at risk, obviously. Is that the case? So there are others who can also equally have
yes, so it was through a contestable fund. They did apply for 3 years, which was the maximum that could be applied for, and they were successful for the 3 years. That's something that could be considered in the future of whether it should be contestable annually or for whether to agree to up to a maximum of 3 years, and then because that does mean that funding is not available to be considered to others until 2027, 28, I believe, is when it first comes up again. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Just a comment is this type of trust is one of the trusts that are valuable to the community. It brings private enterprise funders, a trust, a council, and this community together, so you get a win-win situation all around. As General Manager identified, the trust has got the ability to go to a lot more organisations than the council can. And a lot of organisations won't fund council because they think that the council has its own means of funding, and so it won't contribute.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to move that we accept this recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Nikki. I do believe that it's really worthwhile having a vehicle, an independent vehicle that can go externally to gain funding that supports what we do and also encourages a vehicle for volunteers to contribute as well, which is really valuable to our community. So I'm going to support this recommendation. Nikki?
Thank you. The Trust does excellent work. They can leverage our funds, they can attract other funders, they bring people together, other volunteers, with their enthusiasm, and they are separate from council. They aren't council. A lot of people don't necessarily want to have council crawling around their property and whatnot. In their minds, that's a thing that they'd rather not. It's great to have something, that an entity that is separate and able to actually move in many different spaces with many different groups of people, funders, etc. And I love their enthusiasm. I think they do a great job, and I support the report. Thank you.
All right, so just for clarification, I wanted to move that, and seconded by Nikki, is that correct?
Yes.
Any other speakers? Dan and then Paul.
Yes, I fully support what the Biodiversity Trust is trying to achieve. Look, we've always got to be realistic about budgets, and I think everyone accepts that, but for the amount that our council is investing here versus the benefit, we get substantial benefits here from this. It would be I think it would be great if we could get a copy of the movie that was I went to this premiere a couple of weeks ago, and it was about predominantly the work that's done throughout the country. And I think I referenced it here about a week or so ago. I was invited along because there was a part that included around the work that Transwaste are doing. If you want an explanation of what's going on in the country around working in this space, this premiere was an excellent example. And then look at what a corporate like Transwaste is doing, because they want to do not only the right thing, but the thing that is right for the future. Then when I look back at the progress that we've made as a council, Chris, General Manager, and I were walking out together, and you just have to you step back sometimes and just remember the progress we've actually made here. There's a huge amount of work with right across the board, and working not only just with business, but also with the philanthropic, but the volunteer side of our community, which is huge. Silver Stream, the work that Brent and his team are doing with Food Forests, to Ashley Rakahuri, to the work with the implementing the Zipper zone implementation program that is in partnership with Environment Canterbury. We've actually made more progress in that space in the years that I've been involved than I've ever thought we would be able to. And that has been partnering with all the relevant parties, including the farming community and our rural community. If we're to make real progress in that space, it's actually about working there, not being punitive, but actually working and bringing that sector alongside the journey with us. And that's the success story of this work. And I'm proud of that work, and I'm proud of the staff and the efforts that they put in. So criticism that comes about that we're not doing enough in this space, or we're doing too much, I think we've got the balance about right. We can never go as far as everyone would like us to, but we've got to be making steps. If we're to achieve things in the natural environment strategy, it's about partnership with our community, and I think and it would be great actually a stock take at some stage to go through and perhaps have a workshop together where we go through and understand the progress that we had made, because I think our community and those who are minded and interested in this space would actually sit back and say, well, council, you're on the right track to meeting these objectives. So we've got our heads buried in the sand if we don't do this work, because it's the future generations that we're doing this for now, to make that difference. And I want to be part of a council that does that, and I'm very proud of the work that we do here, and really want to acknowledge and thank the staff and all our partners, including the community in this space, that help us achieve it.
Thank you. Paul?
Yes, I'll be supporting this. I think it's actually quite important work being done around the community, brings external funding in, really good. However, I do get a wee bit concerned when we have a meeting with ECAN and find out some diggers have to go and run across some of our pristine planted areas, and that makes me shrivel up and think, wow, what a waste. So I think there was a wee bit more communication between some of our drainage staff and ECAN when some of the plantings are done, but most of it all good. Just that it doesn't look good when you find a digger has to run across a whole lot of nice, pristine, brand new plants to get to clean a river before it has a flood. So just a wee bit of communication needed, but the group overall is doing an important, really good job around the area, so thank you.
Thank you. Tim?
I think one of the points about that model of working with our community group is the energy and the volunteering they bring together, and we've touched on that in questions and in debate. An example I'm aware of, actually yesterday I did a tour of Ngaitahu Farms for the first time, and out at Airwell. Now in that case, I know the Biodiversity Trust is working with at least 2 local schools, if not 3. They're working with Waimakariri Irrigation Limited, they're working with Pāmu, and if you couldn't find probably a bigger spectrum of views about environment than some of those groups, Waimakariri Land Care Trust, the whole lot. And all that, and the nursery plantings came out of schools, it's going on to farms, it's feeding into the work we do with waterway management and council, our own ecologists and our team. So that, to me, that was really illustrative of what can be done just by enabling a community-based group and a charitable group like the Biodiversity Trust to get on and do its work and harness people's energy and enthusiasm. So thank you, I'll be supporting this.
Thanks, Tim. Right, we have a recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Sophie, once again. And Kelly. Now we go to 5.6, Information Report for Source Upgrade Package 2, Gary Mayer, Exploratory Drilling. Caroline, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, councillors. The purpose of this report is really to provide the UNR committee some update on how the drilling of the second well at Gary Mayer is progressing. So unfortunately, it hasn't been very successful to date. As you would remember, Gary Mayer is the only water supply in the district that does not have a acceptable risk because of a lack of a second bore. And so we have been trying to expedite this second bore drilling to make sure that we manage that risk. Unfortunately, the drilling to date hasn't found suitable yield that we require as a backup. We have drilled to 100 meters and still not encountered the yield that's required. So we have gone and done more exploratory drilling through a sonic drill rig. And that process was to identify if there are any water-bearing layers that are suitable, that could be suitable, that wasn't able to be identified through the main drilling process of the bore. So now we are looking at investigating those 5 water-bearing layers that has been identified. And through that process, if we are able to achieve the yield that's required from either a combination of all 5 layers or a single layer, we will proceed with developing the bore as a useful bore. However, if that doesn't happen, we will need to go with Plan B, which at the moment is the recommendation to drill at the lower terrace. And hopefully we will be able to have a successful bore there. So maybe the main point is we have been using the district water to fund the additional exploratory drilling, and that was approved by the GM of UNR with approval from the CE as well. And that was required to ensure that we have sufficient funding to carry out this exploratory drilling. So if there are any further budgetary impacts, we will bring another report back. Happy to take questions.
Would you like to further?
Yeah, just perhaps, yeah, well, I will comment a bit before questions. So councillors will be aware that we have had other challenges in other parts of the district in the past, probably on larger schemes that we've managed. Our credibility is on the line with this as a water supplier. So we've delivered a water service delivery plan to the government, and part of that is that we need to be able to provide our water services in a financially sustainable manner. You will be aware that Garrymere has a very shallow source. We're actually very fortunate to have the supply that we do that as a single one, and you'll probably also recall about a year ago we had a failure on that scheme and we were tankering water. That has not escaped the attention of the regulators, so we need to be able to answer to Ngāti Harawai, to the other regulators, which will include the Commerce Commission soon. So it's important that we find water here. We thought it was important to update you on where we're at with it. There still is some risk, so we want to try and see whether we can get any yield out of these 5 gravel-bearing layers that we've encountered. Then we go to the next step. Just also want to assure you that we put our staff do put this through a lot of scrutiny each decision point that we make, and I think we've been quite methodical about it. We keep our portfolio holder informed on progress, and so we will be bringing further updates as this goes, and hopefully with good news rather than bad news in the future, because if we don't get a yield out of the additional well that we're talking about on Lower Terrace, we're really up for some potentially more significant challenges to get us back up for this scheme.
Thank you. Mayor Dan, you have a question?
Thank you. So thank you for the update that's been provided in the report. If we can't achieve, because we went through this with Summerhill at one stage with wells and other measures, if we can't achieve, is there an opportunity of joining another scheme in the area like the Hiranui water supply? Is that at all something we've considered if worst case comes that we can't find achieve a suitable well with the right level of yield?
So that would be one of the options on the table. So we would be coming to you with multiple options. That would be one, and we'd have to put in costs and risks associated with each of those. So just to give you an indication, that would definitely be one of the considerations. It is quite some distance to the Hiranui scheme. The other option would be to try and find another traditional well from a source further afield, because we're trying quite close to the headworks here. And just another would be, we would potentially look at whether there was a shallower source within, say, an infiltration gallery or something. None of those would be great. So we're really hoping for a successful outcome from this current piece of work.
The other is, just to be clear, there's no existing, right now, there's no risk to the community. We're regularly testing this right now.
No, we're very confident about the water quality here, so we are regularly testing it, and it is fully treated. So being a shallow source, it does have, we have to be more reliant on our barriers, so we've got both UV and chlorination in place, so that deals with all protozoa, bacteria, viruses, the whole lot.
Jared, we did have an advisory group, because I was chairing it at one point. Are we keeping that advisory group informed on this, and have we had meetings with them so that they're aware and taking this part of the journey on this with us?
The short answer is no, we have not. This is still operational at this stage. They are aware, though, I suppose through our, so we had that advisory group about establishing the Garrymere supply. We haven't re-established them regarding the second resource. I think perhaps if this was unsuccessful, we might want to think about that at that point. It's really, I think at the moment, we've got a contract with a well driller that we're in a process with. It's in accordance with what we've put out through the annual plan, but that's something we could consider and advise on if we do have to go further on this in the future.
Has there been any comms with residents about this, so they're all aware?
Yes, so we have been putting out comms about the drilling, so they're well aware.
Right. Tim?
I just wanted to ask, perhaps the director to you, Jared, I mean, in terms of one set of works and another. I mean, I'm well familiar, we're all familiar with Summer Hill, as the Mayor raised, and all that work that we went on, say, first West Ayrton, Summer Hill, then it was Airwell, and it was all connecting the pipe, and then everyone was all in, and everyone's paying more rates. So what's the comparability here with Gary Mayor, given this history? I know you've said that potentially that's an option down the track, and it's a long way to Huranui or somewhere. But yeah, are we getting some sort of urgency and close to that position without preempting?
Look, let's not forget we've got a primary supply now, and we do, the incident I referred to where we had to tank it, we did get it back up and running. I think your question is how much risk have we got at the moment?
See, I mean, look, we've been here before. We've done it with Summerhill, and I know it's different terrain, geography, and all that. But it was a long way. It was 15, 20 k's or something.
Oh. Look, the wells in this area do not yield well. It's not great country for drilling. You're quite right. We have been. We did try and drill for the Summerhill scheme, and ultimately, yes, we have retired the intake we had from the Ashley River and connected that up through West Ayrton with also the ability to connect Cust. So look, yeah, we've been here before in some way on almost all of our schemes, and I think that is the benefit of being a district where we've been very proactive on our water supplies over the years.
These models are rated and put in.
This is what we're doing. We're continuing that. It's a slightly different challenge. We're dealing with different geography here and a different issue, but we have had a number of challenges that are not entirely different.
How many times would you have to drill a well unsuccessfully to be equivalent to an upgrade? Have you got any ballpark figure? Do we have to come back 5, 10 times before we sort of,
Look, and I think it's really just getting the secondary source of water. So we've got, at this stage, where what we've got in front of us is completing this well that we've done the exploratory drilling on. And then if that's unsuccessful, going to the lower terrace, where we've already got a successful well. And so I think staff have started to turn our mind to what the next options are. And that's before making that decision, we can put that to you in terms of how much another well would cost and how likely that is to be successful.
Mayor Dan?
Thank you, Jared. Is the advisory group still on our books, or would it require that being reinstated? Because my understanding is it was to be ongoing, but I may be incorrect in that view.
My recollection is we established that advisory group when we were talking about the upgrade of Gary Mayor, and you will recall that was actually one of the catalysts for the district-wide UV rate that came out of that. So they are not a live group, but we haven't really had a necessity to re-establish them. But look, that would be something that I think would be relatively straightforward to reconnect with the members, the residents, and re-establish that group. They're certainly not a standing group at the moment.
Would you need that contained in this recommendation, or is that something you would be able to pick up and consider?
Something for the future. I don't think we would need that in this recommendation, but if we were thinking we needed them, we'd be coming back to talk to you before that anyway. So we'd deal with that in a future report.
Thank you. Right, do we have a mover to receive this report? Councillor Williams and then Dan to second it. Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, when we start talking about drinking water, it's essential. It's an infrastructure we have to have. We're demanded by the government to have the right drinking water standards and etc. And I think it's so important. It's probably most bit of infrastructure, because we can't survive without drinking water. So I think that's something we've got to do. So we've got no really choice on this. This is the best option at this stage for going forward. So thank you very much, and I thoroughly recommend doing what we're doing, and well, hopefully, with fingers crossed, we'll come out with success. Thank you.
Mayor Dan?
Thank you for the update on it. You know, it's a bit of a concern, and when we've just undertaken the amount of work that we did 7, 8 years ago on this, it was around that time. In fact, it was this about almost 6 years ago or thereabouts that we went and turned the switch on, so to speak, or celebrated the opening, so including the works that we done on UV, which was substantial. The reason I asked the questions about the advisory group is we did a lot of work to keep the community with us on that, and my preference would be, and as we come into the next term, is that we do look at that, and if it's needed, then to re-establish an advisory group there to at least work alongside us. These are decisions that involve them as well. So it's, while it is business as usual, which it is, also we have always prided ourselves in keeping in touch and keeping our community on side. Comms with residents is also particularly important, and I'd like to see that this report goes to the Rangireshi Community Board as well, because they were on that duty with us. In fact, Duncan Lundy was the Community Board's representative. Councillor Williams and I were both on the advisory group for that, from memory, as well as community members. So we did, I think personally, we did a really good job out there on a particularly challenging matter. So I think the points that Councillor Fulton makes are relevant. I don't want to over-egg it or overthink it either, but it would be great if we can be kept informed on this, because as you say, Jared, it's a matter that we will be under the spotlight on, and we've got to get it right. And I can sense from where our staff are sitting that you're all over it and you're doing your work. It's just good that we're kept informed on that as you're doing, but also considering the community aspect, which I think is really important.
Thank you. Tim, you wish to say something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it is important that in this instance and others, that our water advisory groups, or community groups, actually are maintained and encouraged. I've seen this happening out my way, where the local, it's basically the local well water group was very strong for years and years, and council came and did its works and did good improvements, and everyone paid for it accordingly. But some of the water that we lost that connection to the local water advisory groups. And some of them are people very passionate about this. I sense the Duncan Lundys and the Co and over this way are probably similar. One observation I made, and I've done my family history out that way, Gary Mare and above, is that it was always been described, I think my grandfather used to describe it as sour country. And that was in the agriculture. It's an old-fashioned term, but I think it was short for bloody useless. You know, difficult soil, difficult water, difficult everything. And so there's a lot of historical. My point being, there's a lot of historical knowledge. They might not know where the wells are, but they know how difficult this piece of land actually is, and the risk entailed. So keep in touch with your community advisory groups and keep them functioning as much as possible. But I support well, I don't have a say, but
No, you can't.
Yeah. I've said that before today. You know.
That's all right. Robbie?
Just going back a little bit with regard to what Mr Cleary said about a number of our schemes have had these sort of challenges, and that was also mentioned by Councillor Fulton earlier on as well. And I look back about 20 years ago where Rangire's water supply was 15-metre wells on the Ashley River bank. And if the river was up, then the water came out through your tap and it was slightly brown. And that's how dodgy it was. Well, staff said this is unacceptable. We agreed that it's unacceptable. I can't remember whether we got clearance to drill 3 or 5 wells. It cost a lot of money. all were insufficient, and that's in a local area into Fernside. And in the end, much to the consternation of a number of people in our community, we knew there was a supply on Smith Street in Kaiapoi. So we decided, right, we're going to put an 11K pipe through from Smith Street to Southbrook and bring across Kaiapoi water. Of course, Kaiapoi weren't that happy because we thought we were tapping into their aquifer. In fact, we weren't. It was another aquifer that was slightly deeper. But we're going to have these challenges, and I completely agree with Councillor Williams about the importance of having a secure drinking supply. The last thing council needs is boil notices and whatever else coming through. So I fully support the recommendation. Sorry about the history lesson, Madam Chair.
Well, I know that the staff are doing a great job, and let's be positive. You might, as you get deeper, you might find gold or water, and that would be great, wouldn't it?
Also be good.
Anyhow, and I know that you'll keep us informed, whoever's here, the new council and the new term, and also, as the Mayor suggested, it's really important to keep the residents notified of progress and what we're doing. So that's something for the new term, and you'll bring that to the new term council to consider as you progress. So thank you so much for all the work you do, and let's hope you do find gold water. Thank you all. So would you write a reply? No, you're all right there, Paul? All right, all those in favour of this report, please say aye. Aye. Against, carries. Thank you so much. Good luck. Now we come to 5.7, Flood Recovery Progress Update and Project Update on Infrastructure Resilience Fund for 24-25 and 25-26. Melanie, welcome. Hi.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors. The purpose of this report is to provide, first of all, a progress update on the May 2025 flood recovery work program, including maintenance checks and preliminary investigations, and also project update on the Infrastructure Resilience Fund for 2024-25 and 2025-26. There are a total of 181 service requests lodged following the May 2025 flood event. After the triage process, they are grouped into 80 maintenance checks and 50 preliminary investigations. So far, out of the 80 maintenance checks, 67 have been completed. 3 are waiting for the estimate from contractors. 3 are waiting for approval. 5 need detailed investigations, and 2 are in progress. Out of the 50 preliminary investigations, 31 have been completed, 12 are under review, and 7 are in the phase of finalizing the service request assessment forms. As for the Infrastructure Resilience Fund 2024-25, 9 projects are prioritized based on the community impact, flooding consequences, cost, effectiveness, and value of interventions, historical records, and resource availability. Out of these 9 projects, 5 are complete, 2 under construction, and 2 are in design phase. These 2 projects are Waikuku Beach Road and Church Bush Road. These 2 are carried over for the 2025-26 financial year under the Infrastructure Resilience Fund. There are 9 new drainage improvement projects for the 2025-26 financial year. 6 out of these 9 new projects are in scoping stage. It is expected that the projects list will be reprioritized after we have finished the May 2025 flooding recovery work and the detailed investigations. The updated list of the projects will be reported in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Tim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd be interested here with the flood recovery and resilience funds. When we say replace something, and I figure one, Bradley's Road, head wall and floodgates, which I've got no concerns about, but do we replace as like, or are we funded for improvements? Is it an opportunity to fund improvements? And, yeah. So who could answer?
Sorry,
Yes, sorry, yeah.
It's almost
Always an
inevitable. It'll be improvements, largely.
And
so there may have been that photo you see at Bradley's Road, that is a substantial upgrade above what was there. Was pretty much a end of life arch, undersized culvert of dubious quality, and that's been a substantial improvement to the capacity and also the reliability with that, the way it's positioned and the floodgate there. So it's almost inevitable it'll be upgrades rather than replacements.
And just a second, if I may, Madam Chair, but floodgate and improvements. I happen to have been invited to a Greenpeace film screening Saturday week ago, and I gave up a night watching rugby for Greenpeace, but there were some in this documentary, which I think was being shared with the council staff. It talked about down at the Taranaki floodgate, which is an ECAN model, and there's one in Kaiapoi, the Taranaki stream. The criticism there was that when we build floodgates, sometimes that we actually stop water from flowing, from dispersing out. I just wonder, is this something that we take into consideration when we build our own floodgates? Because the argument with the Taranaki stream is that everything gets blocked up, and it used to just flood out to sea, but we actually end up.
Very good question that you got to there, Kath.
Yeah. Well,
so in terms of selecting the type of flap gates that we actually installed, that is a consideration, and the one that was installed at Bradley's Road is a lightweight alloy type flap gate, so that it's actually going to open a lot more easily. In terms of the Taranaki stream, some of the work that Environment Canterbury have been undertaking there is actually modifying the gates there. They have in the past trialled sections where they've had within the main gate an insert for a fish-friendly pass, so that will actually stay open for a lot longer period of the tide cycle. But they also have money in their long-term plan to look at upgrading the floodgates there at the Taranaki stream.
And Kaiapoi as well, I think, was one with the Maori.
Yeah, Courtney Stream. So that's going through the consenting process at the moment, and that's likely to occur this coming summer, and on Kairaki Creek as well. And what they're moving to is what they refer to as side hung, or effectively large doors that will open and shut like that. And that is effectively to allow water to flow more freely up and down during the tide cycle, enable better fish passage as well. But when it comes to our infrastructure that we're replacing or upgrading, we're making sure we're putting in the most appropriate type device to, when it's in flood and you don't want that backflow occurring, so that it does its job, but at the same time it is not holding up water on the other side when during normal flows.
Thank you, Kelly. I've seen those plans. They look great, don't they? It's very good. Now, we have another question. Oh, Paul, you had a question.
Yes, I know we're doing a lot of investigations around Wakaku Beach area. When we're doing those investigations, does that take into consideration there's possibly a big development of maybe around 1,000 houses in the Stokes area there? Is that going to contribute there? Where I'm coming from, is that, involved in the same process? Because I wouldn't like to see a lot of water actually hitting an area where we're fixed and we haven't done a big enough culvert or something like that. So is that happening?
Yeah, probably 3 points just to note regarding that question. First of all, any upstream development, so the Stokes land, they will need to manage their stormwater on site. And given that land discharges down towards Waikuku Beach Village, we will be having a really close look at that to make sure that their on-site system is appropriately designed to manage the stormwater. In terms of the nature of investigation works we're doing in the Waikuku Beach area, a majority of them fall into the category of localised issues that we actually need to address to get the water to the Taranaki stream in the first place. So they need to happen irrespective of what the water levels in the Taranaki stream are occurring. So that's an example, like the work that's underway in Queen's Avenue as well. There's deficiencies there that we need to go and address. The final point is, even with the upstream development or these other upgrades we're looking at, we know we actually get high water levels in the Taranaki stream. It occurred in the May 25 event, as well as the July 23 and July 22 events. And we've had to deploy large pump stations down to the floodgates there. So we've actually put some money in outer years to actually look at putting in a larger pump station to help us better manage those flows in the Taranaki stream. And what we're actually doing is trying to coordinate that work with, mentioned before, that ECAN are looking at upgrading their floodgate. We'll make sure that's coordinated with ECAN at the same time, and potentially the actual construction work's happening at the same time as well.
No, thank you for that. Just that water flows downhill, and I hate to see a lot of Stokes water going and creating a bigger problem, like has happened in Mandeville, for example, in different areas. So.
Right. Any other further questions? Nikki?
Thank you for your report. I see that you have the 9 new projects listed, and out of those, the Threlkelds Road, another Mill Road, and Tram Whites and Edmonds Road. I think I'm fairly sure of what you're looking at Threlkelds Road, but what are the additional works that you're looking at Mill Road, and also what's being considered for Tram Whites and Edmonds Road?
Perhaps I'll talk to Mill Road and then let Melanie and Kelly to answer the second question. So you'll be aware we've already carried out some work. We did that in conjunction with the roading rehabilitation work in Mill Road, and that was an issue where there was flooding, and we managed to get some good synergies between that roading project and some improvements to the drainage. There's actually 2 other issues in Mill Road that are currently in the consideration of staff. So the area where the culverts were upgraded in Mill Road, the properties there have got some issues behind their properties, and as you will also be aware, that is the land that has been subject to various applications for development. So staff are very conscious that there are some existing issues there, and actually we wouldn't want to go and to carry out any work that became redundant or weren't compatible with the future work, should that be something that happens. So from that point, we're actually taking a bit of a wait and see to see how the regulatory process plays out. And so that deals with that area. We also do have an issue, you'll be aware of the Mill Road stormwater management area, which is further down Mill Road. We've been in discussions with some of the property owners there, the developer. Again, that area has been stalled largely for development for reasons that don't actually relate necessarily to drainage or council issues. It's more to do with access and right-of-way matters that is really challenging given the multiple number of landowners. But again, so Melanie's team have been looking at some, we've had service requests there and looking at it, so there's actually a report sitting on my desk. I'm the bottleneck on that one at the moment, to have a look at that area where we're also meeting some of the property owners as needed in that area. So that one, so the Mill Road one, it's interesting you've honed in on that one. There's some uncertainty as to whether we'd actually go on and do anything beyond investigations in this current financial year. The second part of the question regarding Whites Road.
So for the Tram Road, Wise Road, and the Edmonds Road intersection, we currently have an investigation report done from last flooding event. So we are, based on that, we are thinking that we will firstly do some modeling work on the upstream catchment, and then do the cover sizing, then do the design construction.
Is that to do with the old Air Riverbed that's had a bit of base flow through it recently?
I don't believe so. This is, it's actually a drain that comes along the side of Whites Road from the south going north towards Tram Road, and then flows down Tram Road towards Edmonds Road. So there's a number of culverts both at the Tram White intersection and then also at the Tram Edmonds intersection that are undersized, and we need to make some improvements for the management of drainage in those areas.
Thank you.
Right, any more questions? Right, we have it's a report, a progress update. So do we have a mover? Councillor Williams, seconder? Councillor Brown? Councillor Williams?
No, I think all the questions have been asked and everything, so thank you for the report.
Seconder? All good? Any further comments? All I want to say is, well, once again, well done. Keep up the great work and the progress. And yes, thank you. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. All right, would you like to write a reply? Oh, there we go. Thanks for all your help anyway. So.
I haven't voted on it yet.
Oh, sorry. Oh well. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Oh my goodness. Oh, now we come to portfolio updates. So we have roading, and then we have drainage, solid waste, and transport. And so before you start, I just want to say, as this is our final for our term this year, I want to thank each and every one of you for your work that you do in each of your portfolios. Job well done. So the first one is roading, Councillor Philip Redmond. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I say every month, these come around very quickly.
Yes, I know.
In the roading area, pre-seal and edge brake repairs are underway, and this work will be increasing as we head further into the reseal season with nice weather hopefully coming. Drainage works and installation of soak pits is continuing, including culvert renewals. Remetalling of unsealed roads is ongoing across the district, as is bridge maintenance and repair work. Queen Street footpath repairs are nearing completion, and trip hazards on footpaths are a continued focus across the district. The Woodend to Ravenswood Pegasus footpath contract has been tendered and is currently being evaluated. I think originally that work was proposed for next month, and I know the Woodend Sefton Board was keen to have it completed sooner, but looks like that won't be happening. But that is quite an important connection that certainly the Woodend Sefton Community Board and Woodend Ravenswood residents have been pushing for. design work is also underway on a number of capital projects. Water main works on Kingsbury Avenue, Ashley Street, Wales Street are continuing. Work will be starting outside Rangiora High School in the school holidays, which I told my grandson this morning seem to come around too often. Also, school holidays, high school holidays are next week. The water main installation on Johns Road and Percival Street is due to start next month. I'll also just mention that the Mayor, myself and the Oxford Ahoka councillors took a trip into Lees Valley to have a look at that about a week or so ago, and the road actually seemed reasonable this time compared with previous trips, and it was good to talk to the residents up there, and they're going to sort of prioritise some of the work that the council is proposing to carry out up there. So it's always an interesting visit, and I would like to say the residents up there are very welcoming and very supportive of the work the council's doing, and Don Young and Joanne have been keeping them informed, and I think that's excellent. Events coming up. The Kickstart motorcycle event has already been. It was on Sunday, and 547 people attended it. There is a new event called Hot Rods to Fernside. That's planned for the 19th of October and is a fundraiser for Fernside School. The Rangiora A&P show is coming up on the 24th and 25th of October. The Oxman Triathlon is on the 30th of November. And this is one for you perhaps, Gerard. The Canterbury Half Marathon is to be held in Pegasus on the 14th of December. And road closure adverts are going out next week. And while we're at it, I'd also, since it is my last update, to wish Gerard very well in his marathon, which is coming up at the beginning of October.
Ooh.
And I always get it confused whether it's Boston or New York, but
Chicago.
Chicago. No wonder I'm confused.
I'll just add one more thing to the roading portfolio update. As you will be aware, the road maintenance contract is under evaluation, tender evaluation, so we won't do anything about that, other than we are aiming to bring that to the 30th of September for a decision by council. Being such a large and complex contract, it's a huge job doing that evaluation. But that is our intention.
Thank you, Gerard.
Any questions? Have you finished?
Yep.
Any questions of Philip?
No, just one.
Tim?
Just something I was asked to bring to bear from our experienced Oxford meeting last night about our Oxford Town events. Is there, what is involved in having even small localised partial street closures to do with, in Oxford for instance, they have a Thursday, like a Christmas shoppers night, late night shopping. We discuss, is there a possibility I can liaise with staff, because we might be able to use some existing road closure consents to even close off a small sort of side street off Main Street, you know, for to enable or trial some of these sort of more family-focused sort of events, market stalls, etc., without closing off the whole road. It's just for a period of hours.
Look, Joanne might add to this, but where there are community events, that's best thing would be to initiate at the very start a service request about or whoever's organising them can engage with, come through me or Joanne to get the correct contacts in terms of what might be, just to explain what might be needed for that, and the traffic management requirements can depend on what the level of activity is.
I do recall side streets off the main street.
You may recall there was some streets in Rangiora a couple of years ago where they actually shut down for some kind of a community picnic barbecue kind of thing. So yeah, we have got some experience with those.
If I can throw in my 2 bobs worth in Madam Shared Play Space, I believe that NZTA provided some form of support or assistance with regard to that sort of option that Councillor Fulton is talking about. And Charles and King Street, that street was closed off for that particular coronation event, and they managed it themselves, I think probably with the support of Sean Maxwell and the other staff members, which went really well. Yeah, so maybe that's something.
It was interesting to hear the perception that it's too difficult, the council will make it too difficult, and I sort of said, well, that's what I'm asking, yeah.
Thank you.
Right, well, thank you very much. This is my final report for this triennium, so I'd like to thank you all for your willing assistance and cooperation during the term, and thank the staff. I've enjoyed this committee, so I wish you all well in your future endeavours.
Thank you, Philip. Nicely said. Drainage, Stockwater and Three Waters, Councillor Paul.
Thank
Williams.
you. So water, commissioning of the UV system at the Ahoka water treatment plant will commence next week and is on track for completion next month prior to the 2025 water deadline. EQ4 well in Pegasus has been drilled and well testing is underway. Vicfector's wellhead installation works is progressing well and expect to be completed by Christmas. The Ayers Street water treatment plant to the East Belt water main project is underway. The western section is complete and HEB are now working on the eastern end, and everybody will see how a larger project that is by the size of the pipe work laying on the side of the roads. Wastewater. The Beach Road wastewater pump has been refurbished and is to be reinstalled next week. The septic facility in the Rangiora wastewater treatment plant is due to be open to all contractors next month. The new inlet screens at Kaipoi, Woodend, Waikaku Beach and Oxford wastewater treatment plants arrived this month and are currently planned to be installed by Christmas. And midge spraying and trapping is commenced at both the Woodend and Kaipoi waste treatment plants. Drainage. The rural drainage maintenance contract has been awarded to Grounds and Services, GSL, who will start work on the 1st of November 2025. The final drainage group meeting will be held tomorrow. A letter will be sent out to all the current members and will be advertised in the local newspaper to seek members for the next term of council, and hopefully that might be mandatory for all the existing members to apply. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Councillor Paul Williams. Thank you. Now we have solid waste from Councillor Robbie Bryan.
Thank you. Not a lot, Madam Chair. Cust Recycling staff have been doing extensive work trying to get a quick solution. Unfortunately, it's been not been successful. They've sought more information relating to the reserve status of the community centre, and there are issues there. So, yeah, Kitty's away. There's not a lot to report. We were going to have a solid and hazardous waste working party. There was one scheduled for a couple of weeks ago. Kitty and I had a chat and came to the conclusion that it was getting just a little bit too close to the election. There's an awful lot of information that the new council are going to have to deal with, and it's better, a lot of it's briefing material, bringing people up to speed. I sincerely hope that the new council has the Solid and Hazardous Waste Committee. I know it helps staff formulate material coming to utilities and roading, and it's great to get ideas on the table, and you know, there will be some significant challenges next year or a year and a half in that portfolio, but I'd like to repeat what Councillor Redmond said about you've been a great bunch to work with, and thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed your company and enjoyed the professionalism of our UNR staff, who are also an absolute pleasure to work with. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Robbie, any questions of Robbie? Thank you for your work. We now have transport. Mayor Dan.
Thank you. And firstly, just to acknowledge the trip into Lees Valley last week. I think that was excellent, and we've done that at least once a year, and I'd like certainly, if in a position to influence that, would be that we continue that at least in an annual journey. It would be really good to consider next term that all councillors come on that trip in there to actually understand the area and the complexity of that area. I really want to acknowledge Don, as Councillor Redmond has, Don and the team, for the level of work they've done in there, because it's a fairly challenging terrain in there. The day we were in there, the weather was beautiful, but that may not necessarily be, as was mentioned to us, the same the following, because that's just the nature. But the riding environment in there, obviously prone with weather events, things can change fairly rapidly. So I think a lot of good work's been done there. Some of you may recall there is the mainland rail concept, or may have heard about it, which is the proposed train that will link events in Christchurch with the stadium. I have been invited to the rolling stock arriving into Christchurch, I think in the next couple of weeks, just so you're aware of that. It's not requiring or looking at any investment from our council. It is purely a private arrangement, as we understand, and they've presented the Greater Christchurch team as well. So, and they're working with Kiwi Rail on that. So, to me, that sounds like a really good thing, and I hope it is successful. It's not, as I say, it's not requiring any investment here. It has. I do get feedback from a number of residents that say, you know, obviously with the stadium coming on board, what is the arrangement around transport? Because there isn't a great deal of parking in the centre, so that's something that I'm pleased that is being considered, and hopefully rail will work. Anyone else that's been elsewhere in the country, particularly Auckland or anywhere internationally, there is generally rail built into your buses, public transport built into your tickets, so that you can access that. So we'll see, and in the long term, if it can achieve other things, this passenger rail concept, this rail concept, we'll see. Whether it would extend to passenger transport's another matter, and that's certainly not on the cards presently. Obviously, we've just completed, and I signed off with the Chief Executive our submission to NZTA last week on the William bypass, so we await with interest where that is around tolling. I get nothing but feedback from residents who are pretty annoyed with that proposal, and would certainly that stretch of road being so narrow, so short, and that it's there's a lot of existing deficiencies that should be addressed by the building of that. Not opposed to tolling necessarily, but just not on that stretch. And it's not NIMBYism either, actually. It's about what's practical and makes sense. When it was proposed, it was never suggested it would be a tolling road. So we've made those points working with the schools and also with the community board chairs. So thank you to all that provided that input, but that submission went in last week. I don't have anything else to add apart from just, and I appreciate the regular meetings I had with both Joanne and Jared. We keep ahead of a range of, keep me briefed well on the range of issues. Transport's become quite a lot more complex and strategically with all the engagements that we have across other councils. So I do appreciate the expertise that Joanne in particular brings there, and how well networked and how well thought she is across Canterbury, actually, which does help our district immensely. So thank you, Joanne, for all the work that you do, and I know you're supported by a great team, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. And I do have quite a close relationship with Councillor Redmond in that space too, and I think he's done an excellent job as the rating portfolio holder. As has been mentioned, I really we'll have some reflections at the end of term, but I think the portfolio system works particularly well, and it's certainly something I would like to see us continue with. Shuffle around responsibilities, titles, those matters potentially, but at this stage I don't think it's broken. I think it's a system that works really well, and just want to acknowledge all the work that each of you do in that space. And as has been already alluded to, good luck with your performance reviews. I hope you're all successful.
Any questions of Mayor Dan? Nikki? Yes, of course you can.
Sorry, not so much a question, but the fact that I and yourself are the only two here that don't have a portfolio that reports to this committee. So I'd just like to say, as my portfolio does actually go across all 4 of these that have just been discussed, I have a keen interest in this committee, and it has been excellent sitting here around this table with all of you and working with the amazing professionals that we have that report to this committee that do work on behalf of our residents. And again, I would just like to say thanks. It's been great working with you guys this term. And again, all the best of luck, and
Thanks,
go well.
Nikki. Thank you. Right. So are there any questions under standing orders? Any urgent general business? And I would just like to say a big thank you. I've really enjoyed being chair of the Utilities and Roading for my short term. And I've really enjoyed working with Jared and Joanne. They're a wonderful support to us. Best wishes for Chicago,
Yes.
Jared. Safe journey. Come back to us whole. So, and Joanne and Kelly and Melanie and the rest of the team, we are so grateful for the work that you do, and hopefully we look forward to working with you in the future if we get accepted by the people to come back and look after them. So thank you for that. The next meeting, this is the final meeting. Oh, of course you can.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, just on behalf of staff, thank you for all the kind words, and I'll make sure that does get passed on to staff. I've certainly appreciated this. Is effectively the committee that I report to for my department, and right across the board, really thank the councillors involved in this committee for their support, portfolio holders and non-portfolio holders. Just during this 3 years, this council has responded to new regulations in the water space, and we're just bringing the Hoka supply online, and we'll have full compliance in relation to that. I think that's been an outstanding achievement. We've had challenges in the transport funding space, which this council has navigated very well, I believe. You've got the Rangiora Eastern Link project, which you've chosen to be proactive about, and I think that I really do hope that will bear fruit for this council in the short to medium term. We've responded to a couple of floods. You've stood up the infrastructure resilience team, and as you can see from the report today, they are making a real impact in terms of, if you look at how we responded to that most recent flood, and also the progress we're making following up from that. Water Service Delivery Plan, the second council in the country to get that over the line and approved. And and I know we've got a good path forward for our solid waste services, which is a once-in-generation opportunity for this district to consider, and that'll certainly be a challenge for the new committee. So look, I really appreciate it, all the support I get. I can really use each of the portfolio holders as a good sounding board and really feel supported by elected members. So thank you.
Thank you, Jared. That's really good. Alrighty, so this is the final meeting of the Utilities and Roading Committee for this electoral term. The new council will be sworn into office in late October, and committee meetings resuming from mid-November. And further information will be advised and listed on the council's website. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you for your time and your efforts, and hopefully we look forward to seeing you in the new term.
Thanks, Madam Chair.